Hey, been a minute since I made a video, so I figured I'd throw this out there. If you work for a company or companies or contracting out, um, you can definitely find a way to take your penetration testing or red teaming to the next level. What I mean by that is if you make your findings into a dollar amount, management loves that shit, right? So, what we're going to do is we're going to take the last video where we compromised a Jenkins pod and we're able to escape to the host and then deploy a crypto miner. What we're going to do with that is we're actually going to take those findings, apply it to the MITRE ATT&CK kill chain, and then we're going to use a tool called Vector to start creating reporting. What that leads into is a purple team activity. So one, it helps the SOC better detect, patch, or at least help verify what needs patching, things like that. Or if it's just like a configuration issue in our environment, or if it's a problem with the product, we can move in those directions. But at the end of it, you get a report. And that report will help your management, the CISO, CSO, make a call of like, oh shit, we've got a lot of problems here, and the risk goes up. Measuring risk, we all know there's a problem with that in the industry right now. There's many things we can do. I mean, on-prem cloud, which cloud, like compare DigitalOcean to AWS, Azure, GCP, Linode, things like that. So I have my own idea of how I want to measure risk there. Maybe I'll jump into that one of these days, but it requires data to make those data-driven decisions. Anyways, for this video specifically, we're going to focus on, here's your MITRE ATT&CK Navigator. I'll put the link in the description. Anyways, yeah, you have this. And if you look at stuff like with NIST, they actually go really in depth on these. Like they add a lot of metadata, annotations, things like that. For us, we're just going to use this. Basically goes over each individual level of like what we did to compromise, and then all the way down to an impact of resource hijacking or dropping the crypto miner. Anyways, I'm sorry, getting over a cold. Anyways, what we'll do is if you haven't used this before, you can run your mouse over it and get an idea of what the T1583.01, anything like that, right? And if you go over to MITRE's website, you have your tactics, techniques, and then if you go into like enterprise, you can read the procedures, things like that. So in this case, we're going to go to enterprise, we're going to go to reconnaissance, and then within reconnaissance, I mean, for us, we're like, okay, oh, sorry, yeah. But there actually wasn't any reconnaissance here. Remember, we were internal. Anyways, we're going to go to resource development, sorry. And once we're here, so domains, right? If we go to domains, we get a little bit of information here, and then the this site information is actually super useful, and we'll get into that later on as we move further right through the kill chain. But yeah, we can just like take this information, so get an idea. It's like, okay, yeah, we actually do have a domain for our C2, right? So we'll click on that and highlight it, and we'll move down each individual step to see what we used. And I wouldn't say we created our own malware, but we did create a way to deploy XMRig as well as deploy XMRig. So there was some customization of malware. Obviously, like as you get into legit like malware, your own built tools and all that, it can go many different ways. But in this case, it still falls under the guideline malware. And then obviously the upload tool. Actually, speaking of that, let's try and pull up that link. I guess we'll just go here. Repositories, and we go to PowerShell and PowerCustom. This is the one we used. We now have NCAT standalone, so now we can actually upload that via, I don't know, base64 encoding, and then actually able to transfer files on a pod that has no way of transferring files. Anyways, so this is Vector. We're going to use this tool to create or recreate our engagement and then make it useful. So in this case, we're going to select a database. You can create your own, whatever. I'm just doing a Reaper demo for this YouTube. And we'll create a new one. We'll call this CI/CD compromise. And then you don't really have to use the template. I'm just going to throw in MITRE Enterprise Tactics. And I mean, you can go through all these and import or build your own and import. We're just going to go blank. Let's say you're new to this, or I don't know, you're wanting to learn the tool, right? So we can add tags, things like that. So actually, yeah, here's the report, 0, right? Because we haven't done shit with it. So let's go back here. Let's add a tag. So this one we'll add, I don't know, we'll create a new one. We'll say, let's go blue, and we'll say CI/CD. Create that one. And then we'll do this for our internal, or let's call it infrastructure. Because this isn't a tool we bought, this is something that we built in-house or deployed in-house via open source or whatever. And we'll just give it like, I don't know, orange, create and apply. Tags are useful because when you start building reports on that, you want to wait to call, I don't know, individual assessments, right? And the fun part is once you jump into an assessment, you create multiple campaigns. In this case, the first campaign is our findings, and we're going to create the new campaign, right? And we'll just call this, I don't know, let's do it by quarter. So we're in Q2 2023. I mean, you can call it whatever the hell you want, really. Templates. I don't know. We'll just say compromise Jenkins pod leading to full cluster takeover. And then, I mean, you can pick an icon. I think I'll probably just stick with default, but I mean, actually, we'll just go with this guy. I mean, you could obviously like use the T1185. What is that? If we go over here, T1185. What is that? Establish account. So probably should stick with default unless you want to actually run through all of these. But in reality, it doesn't really matter because this is like the initial go, right? So I'll just throw that icon on there, and then we can run through these and choose what we want. But we're gonna go blank because I want you to get an idea of how to use this tool. So save this. Okay, our assessment. Open this up and you can see our little starting point over here. So campaign actions, we're going to do a new test case, and we're going to start with resource development. Remember, there was no recon. You could have recon in yours, right? For us, it could be, I don't know, Google Dorks or Shodan or something, and that is actually a good idea. When you find a vulnerability, scan Shodan, scan Census, get an idea of how you can quantify your exploits, right? So yes, you as a company, you're working on your product, or you're working on maybe something that's open source like Jenkins, right? And you find a new exploit. Well, you scan the internet, right? Maybe we can throw an example in there here in a second, but you're going to scan the internet to quantify your findings. And obviously, if you find a simple exploit that leads to 100,000 device takeover, like that's a big deal. Anyways, quantifying your exploits is a good idea. Throwing a dollar amount towards your exploit, great idea. And that's why we're here. So what we'll do is we'll use, let's see, so resource development, and we'll go back here and we'll start with the first one, domains, right? So if we go back here, resource development, domains, and I mean, you can just like copy this. I would do this just to stay organized and makes your life a lot easier. Let's do domains. I'm pretty sure 1583. Let's make sure that's right. 1583.01. Yeah, we got it. And then what you can do is you can copy this, throw it in the description, and this is just to start learning. You should have better descriptions of like what you did to create that, or I mean, hell, you could just like throw in a link instead because it's probably easier. You should have internet access, and then throw in your commands of what you did. So in this case, went to company registrar and bought domain, right? Obviously, you want something with a long-standing history that's well-known, useful, and most companies aren't flagging as loaded with malware, right? But anyways, that's the operator guidance. If you've already done that, you can just say reuse domain repurchased or something like that. And then you can add like targets and sources and things like that. Since this is resource development, the chances of a new threat, you're not going to see any of it. But if it's like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of an apt group off the top of my head, Team TNT or something like that, right? Domains, infrastructure, IP addresses, they're well known. So the second one of those IPs hit your IDS or IPS, you should be like, oh shit, we don't want that, right? And flag it. So in this case, the outcome would be none because the blue team's not going to find it. Or maybe they did, but that's why you sync with the blue team and be like, hey, did you guys see X, Y, and Z? Sometimes you don't want to give that information away as a company internal red team, because you don't want them to be like, oh, going forward we'll just start flagging your internal domain. It's like, that's not why we're here, right? You're supposed to know, or you're supposed to let that go. But we've all had the blue team side where they're like, how do we make red team's life hell? So then we have to spend more money on domains and things like that. So it's something you should think about. Anyways, attacker tools, you can like throw in your domains. We'll just say new red product. We'll say name, Reaper. Oh shit, if I could spell, domain. And then we'll just do like, I don't know, let's do purple, some type of purple, pink, whatever. Vendor, it's not in here obviously, so you have to build your own, right? Primary, secondary. I don't totally understand what that is yet. I'm sure it's in the documentation. We'll just do default name. Oh, sorry, version. Let's do just like 1.0. Description, Reaper ut.com domain, and save it. Okay, and we'll just close that. We have our attacker tools. I guess we could also do the sources and targets, right? So sources would be, I don't know what I did. It was like ntp.reaper-ut.com. I think I had something else, but we'll just say ntp because that's a good one. Linux, description, c2 domain, save, click it, close, cool. And then targets will be, what was it? Whatever the Jenkins domain was. We can add that later. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, this cold is kicking my ass. Anyways, yeah. So you don't have to do any blue team shit. It's actually wise that you get your red team stuff done first and then save it. And then, as you can see, it starts building out your kill chain within this image. Really useful in your slide decks, by the way. Anyways, what we'll do is, oh yeah, I can show you a quick tag. Figure tags. So we have all these. No. I mean, that's when you start getting into threat emulation, right? So let's just do. Usually I use these to like track down blue team tools to see what should have caught it and what shouldn't have. So you could throw in like, I don't know, Falco, Suricata, Zeek, Nessus. I don't know. There's a bunch of shit out there. But anyways, yeah, you can add tags here. That'll be super useful when you do your reporting. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause the video and complete the rest of these, and then just kind of go through them if you want. To complete this though, because we already completed it, right? Unfortunately, we didn't set the progress on this initial scan, right? I mean, why would we? We found something new. So let's just set it to complete and hit save. Complete, right? Obviously, you want to sit with blue team and figure out. So let's say none, because it's a new domain they're not aware of. And let's say the tool they're using is, let's do guard duty. Okay, and then actually I do want to change that color. Let's change it to an orange color. Okay, create that, apply it, and detection. I mean, there's nothing there, so we'll back out. Prevention, evidence files. So this is super useful. So if you're using some type of SIM or something, screenshots, if you have a way of downloading it, cool, and then just add the file. Okay, cool. Save that. Okay, so the outcome is none. Not a good sign. But it's okay, because that's the whole point of why we're here. Once you finish the kill chain, then we move over to blue team and say, set a date and time so we can rerun this entire engagement and see how we're on the first assessment. We'll duplicate it, literally, we'll clone it, right? And we'll run it again. But in this case, blue team will be like, all right, we see what you're doing, or no, we don't, right? Or maybe they need time to go through the findings and say, okay, we could have done that if we had X, Y, and Z in place. They'll reconfigure and we'll run this engagement again and again and again. And they'll be able to say, okay, from the initial point we had like, I don't know, 10, 20% coverage, not good. We reinstate all these commands, or sorry, these checks in place, detection monitoring, and now we're at like 80%. That's great, right? Or maybe they come back and they configure everything and it's just complete dog shit still, right? then that means your tooling might be shit. And that's actually another reason why you should be doing these when you POC tools, right? SOC wants these new tools. They put them in place because the sales guy's like, yeah, man, our tool does everything. And then red team comes in to test it with blue team, and they're like, bullshit. X, Y, and Z, here's data-driven decisions, right? So we can say your tool doesn't say what it does, says it does, right? Saves the company a lot of money, and your management will love that shit. So anyways, I'm going to fill this out, and then I'll show you what it looks like, and then we can go into the reporting. All right, we're back. Cool. So I got this filled out. Let's go ahead and open this up. You can see the outcome 50-50-ish. All right, let's keep going. Open this up. See the entire kill chain. Right, pretty useful. While filling this out, I did notice there were some things that need to be removed because they didn't make sense. I verified that by going over here and reading through them and saying, okay, that does make sense. Get rid of it, right? Okay, cool. Okay. We can see some things were logged, but were never alerted. The only one that alerted was impact, which was resource hijacking. We click on it, use module XMRig. So yeah, C2 being deployed, or sorry, the XMRig module being deployed. Yeah, it got alerted. Great, but I'm gonna get into that. So anyways, all these completed. We have a bunch that are none, like no system information, file and directory discovery on the host. Basically what it comes down to is no host monitoring detection taking place. That seems like a gap. And that's why we do these tests, because we're literally trying to figure out, do our tools work, yes or no? Do they capture shit that we expect, or are we just completely blind on something we had no clue about? So that's why it's useful. Okay, so let's go back one, and we can click on the report, and there you are. I mean, you can see, like, we had one block, awesome. What the hell is going on here? So we logged it, but we didn't even alert. Why, right? Defense success rate, 4%, that's not good. Anyways, let's scroll down, take a look at prevention. So for whatever reason, one of them was the NNM and Suricata. Makes sense for those. But then we look at the kill chain, and let's see where we're effective. So resource development, we were able to capture a few of them because of whatever signatures, or whatever's there. We're obviously doing something right there. So a lot of the resource development, in my opinion, you won't catch because it's so custom. I guess I wouldn't say custom, it's just you're using domains that are already clean. And I mean, anybody can use that until they're a burner, and then you move on. But I tend to see this. I see all the way up until the end, and that's where you're captured and stopped and whatever. But what about all this? What do we do? Well, for these logs, we can actually say, should a user really have SSH access to a container on the cloud? You know, in reality, they shouldn't. They should be deploying. They shouldn't have to have SSH access. Any logging needed should be sent home. You can review it there. So, anyways, what I'm getting at is you shift left, buzzword. Anyways, no. As you move through the kill chain, you'll realize where your weaknesses are. So execution, persistence, lateral movement, like, these are huge blind spots because there's nothing going on there. Okay. And then, yeah, you can see more of these. Oh, yeah. Phases, techniques. It's just more of the same shit. What's fun, though, is you can match it up to known threat actors and see how you compare. If you have known threat actors, like if you're a cloud company and you got Team TNT coming back, assuming that's real, that's something you should be paying attention to. Anyways, let's go back to assessment. So it's been one PI, 1 quarter, whatever your teams work off of, right? Because red teaming is moving quickly into the engineering world. Let's say everybody got their shit done and said, we can do X, Y, and Z about these things, right? Cool. So you're going to clone your campaign. And we're going to say run 2. Or actually, let's jump this over to Q3. Or we could do Q2. PI, I don't know, 10, whatever you're doing. Save, pop this guy open, and rerun everything. I'm going to quickly knock this out and then come right back because it does take some time, but we can get an idea on differences. All right, 1 second. Okay, we're back. As you can see, we've filled out the second one. Have a whole lot more alerting, or at least alerting and blocking, right? Blocked, alerted, alerted. Okay, cool. So let's jump back here. This first one, if you remember, if we look at the report, we can see it was like 4%. Okay, now we go back and let's take a look at this report. Hey, that's a huge improvement. Perfect? No. But we can see like, okay, why do we still have like 30% that's not doing shit, right? So what we need to do is go back to our assessment, go into here, let's look at the outcome, none. And if you start looking at things like this, it's like, hold up, why didn't we block any of these? So we drill in, okay. So this one's just like they're waiting on engineering to finish up a Docker ticket. In this case, engineering asked Docker to be built into the container, not reliant on the host's Docker sock. Or yeah. Let's see. So we go over here. What else we got? Comms over SSH. So we could have blocked that on the host. Okay, what about this? No host monitoring taking place. So right now I'd be looking at, okay, what kind of tooling can we get that would start monitoring for hosts? Because if all these are a host problem, yeah, then maybe we can remove that 30%. I mean, it's one of many problems, I'm sure, but if we get rid of that 30%, what does it look like? Oh, sorry, go back one, oops. Damn it. I'll get it right one of these days. Okay, so yeah, add 30% basically to your 54%. So that's a huge increase, right? Logging and all that, if they're logging and at least alerting on it, then it looks like they're not. So we'll have to look into that, but alerting, yeah, actually I'm curious about that. Basically, if I see alerts and logging going on, but it's not blocking, that means there's probably also user interaction that's needed. So that's where the ticketing system comes in. Anyways, yeah, and then we can actually look at a, let's take a look at this. Preview assessment, defense success rate, not bad. Overall, can we look at the entire report? Yeah, okay, cool. So we can see this, see all this fun stuff, and we do see we've shifted left in the kill chain. God, I'm not using these buzzwords anymore. Anyways, yeah, we're doing better. It's not at the very end. We're actually catching shit way before, way down back into resource development, which is great. And then we can also see like, let's back up. Can we look at the heat map? Yeah, then we can see like how we're doing against the attack kill chain. And I mean, there's other things you can look at too, right? Test case drill down. I don't really have a use for them, but it's nice. Historical trending. Again, not in my line of work, but it's nice to have these tools. But anyways, this kind of stuff right here will help management get an idea of where tooling needs to be. So that's why you're there. And when you can apply a dollar amount saying, okay, if we spend $100,000 for all of our hosts, I mean, that's not realistic, but let's say you could. I mean, anybody's going to drop that money ASAP, especially if it's in like your top 3 out of the 100 things you need to get done. So hopefully this helps. And then obviously you can rerun these engagements, right? So if I jump into here, I'm like, okay, that's great, but I'm going to clone it, and we'll say 11, and then you can just like add those metrics into it, right? Anyways, hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Again, this is how you can turn your red team engagements into a purple team and start making sense from a dollars and security perspective. Cool. Thanks.